Hey everybody, welcome into Faith and Football. My name is Neil. Guys, we're almost there. It's almost time to draft. Now, some of you may have already drafted. Some of you who remember my nephew Lawson, he is currently in a draft right now. It's just one of those slow drafts, 4 hours per pick. Some of y'all have that, some of y'all don't. I think this might be his first one of this length. So Lawson, if you're watching this, good luck, buddy. Hit me up, if you need anything, and I'm always happy to help. And you don't have to be relation to get some help. Down below, when you subscribe, like, share, drop me a comment. Even if it's not football related, maybe it's scriptural, maybe it's something you're going through that you need help with. It maybe you just need prayer for. That's why I'm here. So. Guys, today's episode, we're going to be talking the top and bottom five uh, best and worst schedules, passing schedules, rushing schedules, and defenses in the league. And we're going to be talking about it from a fantasy perspective, of course. But before we get into that, remember, this is faith and football. So we're always putting faith in God first. So, with that being said, I don't know about any of you if you have a certain spot where you think, or where you feel that God talks to you more, that you get more of a word from him, that you're more connected. But I find that I'm never more connected than I am when I'm outside in the garden. I know it sounds really weird when I say it, but that's where I get the most words from the Lord. That's where most things make sense to me, where it all kind of comes together. And this episode in particular, I've bounced around a bunch of different ideas, a bunch of different scriptures, and I settled on James chapter 2, verses 14 through 18. Now, I came to this as, like I said, as I was in the garden. I'm out there and I'm pulling weeds, and we have tomatoes, we have peppers, we have cantaloupe, and I'm pulling weeds and I'm seeing that there's still fruit and vegetables being produced, even though there's weeds. And I thought about it. I was like, you know what? In our daily life, we're surrounded by weeds. Like, we want to be the fruit bearing vine for God. And at my church, we just got out a series talking about the fruits of the Spirit. And so I looked at this and I kind of had that perspective in mind. And I was like, even among the weeds, you can produce fruit. And I thought that was really cool. I thought it was really insightful that even in bad situations, God can still produce fruit in you. But then I dove in a little deeper, and I was thinking about, there's always people that you work with, people that you know, that you just they just come off lazy. And I was like, what really is laziness? And some people, they get caught in comparison where you're like, well, that person's lazy. Well, no, maybe you're just better at something than someone else. Doesn't mean they're lazy. It just means that maybe you're better in that area and they're not. Maybe if you find an area that they're really good in, they would think that you're lazy. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, laziness is basically if you have the ability to do something, you choose not to. You choose not to live up to your expectations. You choose not to live up to your potential. That's lazy. You have it within you to do that. And then I was like, well, we have it within us to produce fruit that is flavorful, that is beneficial for others around us. And if we don't, that's being lazy with God's gift that He gave to us. Even though we may be producing fruit within the weeds, if we do the work, if we tend the garden, and we pull out the weeds and we take away the distractions and we take away the influences that are distracting us from God's purpose in our life, then that will help produce better fruit, more flavorful, more plentiful, more useful for those around us. So basically, what I'm saying is there comes a time when you look at yourself and you go, you know what? A lot of us sometimes want the fruit, but we don't want the work. So you're trying to do the least amount possible, but get the most out of it. And it doesn't work that way. And I want us to look at James chapter 2, and this is what it says. And this is a really famous part of James that everybody knows. Everybody who's been in church any amount of time, you know this part of scripture that I'm about to read. Chapter 14 starts with this. This is from the NIV. It says, "What good is it, brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds, has no works?" Like you claim you have faith, but you haven't done anything. Like you claim that you have fruit, but you're not tending the garden. And it says, "Can such a faith, can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about it, about their physical needs, what good is it?" So like you drive by that homeless person, like, hey, I'm praying for you, but if you don't do anything for them, what good is that? If you see somebody struggling, a friend of yours, like if your significant other, if your wife or your husband was struggling, you would help them. If your kid was struggling, you would want to help them in any way you can. But how many of us want to help our neighbor, want to help that random person who just, you can tell when someone's not doing well? Take a minute, pray with them, take a minute, see what they need, see if you can help them in any kind of way and help their physical need, because that's doing the work of the kingdom. And verse 17 continues, it says, "In the same way, faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith, I have deeds.' I say, 'Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds.'" So somebody might say, "Yes, I have faith," but if they have nothing to back it up, it's empty. So a lot of these, players that we're going to be looking at, they're from a really good situation or a really difficult situation. And we're going to see which one of them has the fruit, has the deeds, has the action to do something for your team. So as you're going through your day, as you're going through your life, I want you to stop and think, am I doing enough? Am I tending the garden that God put me in? See, God put us all in a situation. He put us all in a certain environment where we're responsible for what's around us. We're responsible and answerable to the Lord on that final day of judgment. What did you do with what I gave you? And will you hear, "Well done, that good and faithful servant," or "Depart from me, I never knew you"? Will you barely get into heaven, or will you get there and you have treasure built up, as the Bible says, where moth and dust does not corrupt, where thieves cannot break in and steal? Is that where your treasure is being laid? That depends on what you're doing here in this life. Because remember, the Bible tells us that this life is like a vapor. It's gone like that. So even though someone like my granddad, who just recently passed away at age 99, that seems like a lot of time. But when you compare it to eternity, it's just a drop in the bucket. Because after 1,000 years, what's 99? I mean, what? It's nothing. That's that's a rookie. So think about your situation. Think about the garden that you're standing in. Is it full of weeds? You still got a little fruit on the plants that you put in there, on the seeds that you planted, or have they been overrun by the distraction of every day, by the weight of life? Remember, God tells us to take his yoke, to put our troubles on him, to take up his burden, for his burden is light. He's willing. He wants your burden. He wants to help you. But you have to be willing to lay down what you've picked up. Are you willing? That's the question for you today. Are you willing? Are you willing to do the work with God's help? It's very simple. So I hope that that hit you guys. It definitely hit me. So remember, James chapter 2, verse 14 through 18. Now I want to encourage you guys to go back and read the book of James. It's a really, really good book. It's one of my favorite books of the Bible, and not just because it's a short book, but because it's very powerful in the message that it has. So go back and check out the book of James in your daily study. If you don't have a daily study plan, I encourage you to get one. I currently am reading the book of Matthew by on my own, and then my wife and I are going through Jeremiah. I was going through Isaiah, but it's way too much like Jeremiah right now, and I needed something different, so I picked Matthew. Love Matthew. But as I said, James is one of my favorite books. So make sure you go check that out. And also don't forget to check out Zia Rotisserie Grill, 235 Duce Road, Lafayette, Louisiana. And remember, when you guys go down there, you tell them you heard about them from Faith and Football, and you can get your free choice of appetizer. Guys, you can't pass this up. You're hungry, you're in Lafayette, go check out Zia Rotisserie Grill, 235 Duce Road. Mention Faith and Football. And look, they're under construction right now. It's okay. You can still get in. They're still open. They still have plenty of seating. Don't let the construction fool you. They are more than happy to have you come in and taste the amazing food that is there. The bar area is getting renovated and they're adding seating onto the front of the building. So they're going to have plenty of room for you to go watch the game once they get done. They'll be done somewhere around Christmas time. So in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, which is perfect for your playoff watch party. Guys, they have a back room. If you want the back room, give them a call, make a reservation. Just don't make it for September 2nd because that's going to be our draft night. We're going to have the big screen TV down there. We're going to be hooked up with the draft board to it. I'm going to be going live right before we start the draft. And you guys get to see some of the people that I've been talking about. You're going to see some of the people that have been on the show. My boy D Money is going to be there. Boy Blaze should be there. You've seen them both on the show. You love them, you know them. So make sure you're checking me out September 2nd. And the way that you do that, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can tell when I go live. Now, we're going to be down there. You're going to be seeing a lot of the food that I'm talking about. The Kung Pao cauliflower to die for. It is amazing. Deep fried vegetable. I mean, look, we're in the South. You got to deep fry everything. So make sure you go down and check them out. If you want catering in you're in the area, give them a call, 337-406-0013. Talk to Andy or whoever picks up the phone. They'd be more than happy to help you with all of your catering needs, whether it be offsite at your place or at their place. Back room, don't forget it. We'll give you a sneak peek when we get to Zia on the 2nd. And at the draft party, we're going to have my sweetest sponsor, Keller's Bakery at 627 Lafayette Street down in Youngsville, Louisiana. Make sure you go down there and you holler at Dusty. Tell him, hey, I heard about you guys from Faith and Football, and he will give you 2 free cookies. Doesn't just have to be Dusty. It can be anybody who works there. But they'll give you 2 free cookies just for mentioning that you heard about them from Faith and Football. And hey, if you guys are in the mood for king cake, it's not king cake season, but they got you covered. Maybe you got a birthday coming up for you or a loved one. They do amazing birthday cakes. Find them on Facebook, make your order, and go down at 627 Lafayette Street in Youngsville, Louisiana, and check out Keller's Bakery. Now, if you're in Lafayette and you're a little hungry, you're downtown, stop by 603 Jefferson Street and check out Amis Groceries. Maybe you need to pick up a couple of things for dinner that night. They got you covered. They got family meals for sale in the frozen section and great supporter of the local economy. They have actually over 200 different items from over 50 local vendors. Homemade beef jerky. They got farm fresh eggs. They got freeze dried candy, y'all. This stuff is off the chain. I will still chow down on some freeze dried candy, even with the dentures. It doesn't bother me. But go down there and check them out. Tell Bradley Neal says hey, and see Amis Grocery at 603 Jefferson Street inside of Gordon Square. Beautiful building. Go check them out. So, as promised, we're going through the top 5 easiest passing, rushing, and overall schedules, along with the top and bottom defenses and the hardest passing, rushing, and schedule in the league for this year. Now, it's going to be a little involved. I'll touch on a few players that I want to make comments about, but this is important for when you go into the draft and you have a choice to make. My nephew, Lawson, he has a choice to make. He is going to be deciding it's a 2-quarterback league. He's already got Patrick Mahomes because they had a run early, as they normally do, in 2-quarterback leagues on the top guys. Now, he's in the 3rd round. Drake London was still there. I don't know if it's going to be there, if he's going to be there when it gets back to him because he's got the 10th overall pick. But one guy that I did tell him to target was Brock Purdy. And I'm going to tell you guys the same thing. Reason being, Brock Purdy has the easiest passing schedule in the NFL. You're talking CMC, George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, those 3 right there by far are going to benefit from this along with Brock Purdy. So if you're looking for a quarterback, a late round quarterback, Brock Purdy's going extremely late in drafts. You can build up on wide receivers, running backs, pick a top flight tight end. It's okay because you've got this guy in your back pocket. One of the best and easiest stacks to make this year is George Kittle going in the 4th round with Brock Purdy possibly even falling to the double digits. So this is an easy stack that you can put together. And my boy Lawson's boy B-Rob, sorry, Brian Robinson Jr. recently traded from Washington to the 49ers. Now, does this give me any pause on CMC's value? Absolutely not. What it does do is it does give me a little boost for Brian Robinson Jr. if CMC goes down, because you got to remember Isaac Rendo is dealing with injury, along with about half the offensive team for San Francisco. I think that they're just wrapping CMC and Kittle in bubble wrap right now and just praying that they make it to the season to week 1 of the regular season. But they have the easiest passing schedule and the easiest overall schedule for this year. Number 2 in the passing category, none other than our local boys, the Saints. Now, I don't know how comfortable you're going to be with Spencer Rattler throwing the ball, but it will be against the second easiest passing schedule in the league. Now, I do caution you with these numbers that I'm going to be throwing out, and this is why I don't do a whole lot of stats. I want you guys to remember that these are based on the defenses that they're going to be facing according to the schedule that's been laid out. Here's the catch. The catch is that throughout the year, those rankings can drastically change based on improvement of the team and improvement or injury to key players. Take Detroit last year. Detroit is an absolutely phenomenal defense. However, they lost about half of them to injury. So they became a target in the second half of the year when you were facing them. If you were facing the Detroit defense, you wanted all your wide receivers, all your running backs, your quarterback, tight end, you wanted everybody facing Detroit because you knew that the defense was horrible through injury, and you knew that their offense could put up a lot of points. So it was a shootout every week. You have Detroit, who scored the most points last year, going up against or going with a defense that gave up a ton of points. So when you're talking about 42-35 games, that is fantasy gold, guys. So I encourage you for the first 4 weeks of the season, these stats, and when you're drafting, this is what you want to look at. However, as the season goes on, make sure that you're flexible, make sure that you're cognizant of what's going on. Okay. So as I said, Saints, you got Olave, you got Kamara, you got Raheed Shaheed. All of those guys are going to benefit from this level of easy passing schedule. Next up, the Panthers. Look, I'm staying if I trusted this table enough, if I had enough faith, which I don't in this table, I would be pounding the table for this Carolina offense. Now, Adam Thielen, rumored to be heading toward a reunion with Minnesota. He might not know, but apparently his wife does because she posted on her social media page, big news coming. Sorry, big news coming with a purple background, if I'm not mistaken, some heart emojis. So that's given a lot of indication that there is rumor that Thielen could be leaving Carolina. If he does that, Bryce Young just lost his BFF from last year, but fortunately, he's got a new BFF and Teteron McMillan. I'm loving this dude. I'm super high on him, and I have great expectation for what McMillan is going to do this year. So make him a target unless you're in my league, and then ignore everything I just said. So, no, but seriously, Carolina has the ability to be a very, very profitable offense in fantasy simply because they have one of the worst defenses ever. Last year, these guys were historically bad. They gave up more points than anybody in the history of the NFL last year, and this year doesn't look a whole lot better. So, who's number 4? We're looking at Arizona, the Cardinals. Guys, if you thought Trey McBride wasn't scoring a lot of touchdowns last year, wait till this year. He's got a much better schedule. Him, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Kyler Murray. The only thing that I caution against is, as the fantasy footballers call them, and if you're not watching those guys, What are you doing? If you're following my show, go follow the Ballers. These guys are phenomenal. They're funny. They had me busting up laughing. But this is their team. They're based in Arizona, based in Phoenix. So they're diehard Cardinals fans. And they dubbed Kyler Murray Moody Murray because if you've ever gone down that road, and I did last year, sometimes he's great and sometimes he's not. And it's like he just gets moody and doesn't want to play. So even though they have the fifth or the fourth easiest schedule, it's still a risk. However, the way that they handle McBride, I would have no trepidation about taking McBride super early, round two, round three. If you guys want to step up and get him, go for it. I'm seeing him go a lot at the end of the second, beginning of the third, somewhere around there. While Brock Bowers is going middle of the second, into the second. Very seldom do I see Bowers fall to the third. But hey, who knows? It could be a crazy, crazy time. Number five to round this passing, the easiest passing schedule category out is the Jets. Now, this means Garrett Wilson and rookie tight end Mason Taylor. Now, guys, I know Mason Taylor is just coming back off an injury, and that's fine. If you're going late tight end, this might be a guy you want to look at because there ain't a whole lot of options passing wise past Garrett Wilson. So if you miss out on Wilson, then definitely Mason Taylor is somebody that you want to look at. Now, we went through the top five. What about the bottom guys? The guys who, if these are wide receivers that you're targeting, there's a little bit of hesitation if you're torn between, you know, taking guys like Pearsall or let's say Josh Downs or Michael Pittman, who actually have the fifth hardest schedule in the NFL this year. That's right, the Colts. We're talking about Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. He is their starting quarterback. Now, how that's going to play out, I don't know, but I've said on the show before, I would much rather Daniel Jones have won that job, which he did, instead of Anthony Richardson. I don't I don't believe in Anthony Richardson right now. Maybe next year, maybe after he's had time to sit, maybe even halfway through the season, but this guy had like, I don't know, 17 starts in college from the time he left high school. That's not a whole lot of experience. And you're expecting this guy to be the franchise of an NFL team. That's not going to happen. Daniel Jones is capable and adequate enough to get you some production. Now, Josh Downs dealing with injury currently. So Michael Pittman might be a good late round target for you to hit. But remember, they do have the fifth hardest passing schedule in the NFL. Now, who's number four? This is a team where you're definitely targeting at least two guys. I myself would be targeting three. That's going to be Brock Bowers, Ashton Jeanty, and Geno Smith if you're going late round quarterback. And of course, I'm talking about the Las Vegas Raiders with the fourth hardest schedule for passing in the NFL. Now, I'm going to bet on talent. I'm going to bet on coaching when it comes to this. Even though they have the fourth hardest schedule, I have no reservations about drafting any of these guys at cost. Now, you want to take Brock Bowers, go for it. I have no problem with that. You want to take him where he's going mid second round, late second, early third, cool. I'm there for it. You want to draft Ashton Jeanty into the first, beginning of the second, which is where I'm seeing him going a lot in mock drafts. I feel you. I got it. I understand. Just he might not have that much passing work, but we're going to get to the rushing here in just a second. Now, the next team up is the New York Giants. Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited. Look, I'm not a big Russ believer. I'm not a big fan. So what I'm looking for is week 3, maybe week 4, when we get famous Jameis Winston at quarterback for the Giants. This dude loves nothing more than to chuck the ball downfield. And even with the third hardest passing schedule, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Now, how much you want to believe the reports coming out of camp about Malik Neighbors having injuries, dealing with a toe, dealing with back injury, dealing with soft tissue injury. Look, this guy's dealing with a whole lot of stuff, but he's been dealing with it since college. So I personally think that there's other ways you could go. Nico Collins being one, Brian Thomas Jr. being another in that same range as Malik Neighbors. Now, could you lose out on something? Sure. But honestly, Malik Neighbors going up against Nico Collins or Brian Thomas Jr., neither one of them with injury concerns. The only real concern you have is Trevor Lawrence going to be something? If you want to roll the quarterback game out, we can roll that with New York too. Is it going to be Russ Wilson and for how long? Is it going to be Jameis Winston and for how long? Or are they going to throw the rookie Jackson Dart in to try to save the coaching staff? Remember, these guys are probably on their last leg, so they're going to want to win as many games as possible. I don't think that they're going to protect the rookie at their own expense. They'll definitely sacrifice him, but that's my own opinion. So, who's got the second hardest passing schedule in the NFL? That would be runners up for the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs and Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes' second hardest passing schedule. Now, does that really matter when it comes to Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes? Not particularly. Just because these guys don't play fantasy football, they play real football and they're looking to win. So they will do it by any means necessary. So that dink and dunk stuff that they did last year that drove fantasy managers crazy, yes, that can happen. Could it be that the absence of Rashid Rice and the emergence of Xavier Worthy finally get Pat Mahomes back to that deep ball thrower that he was when he first burst on the scene? Yeah, it could happen, but that's a lot of could and a very hard schedule. My personal opinion, I'm skipping over the Chiefs this year, but that's me. Now, next up, at the hardest schedule in the NFL, that belongs to the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert, Trey Harris, newly returned Keenan Allen, everyone's favorite Ladd McConkey, all of those guys facing the hardest passing schedule in the NFL to start the season. Now, Justin Herbert, a lot of mocks I'm seeing, he's not even being drafted. So, when you got Harbaugh and the OC that they have there, guys, I'm not too happy about drafting the passing work coming out of the Chargers. But again, that's me. When you couple it with a want to run the ball and everything that they've shown this offseason, shoring up the offensive line, bringing in Mario Hampton, signing Najee Harris, who, by the way, still isn't practicing. He's just walking around because he decided to have a accident on the 4th of July with some fireworks. Could not even play. So when you got a team and a head coach and offensive coordinator that want to run the ball, and you have the hardest passing schedule in the NFL, I don't know if I'd be pinning my hopes on the passing work coming out of the Chargers. But again, just me. So next up, let's check out the top five easiest rushing schedule for the season. Starting number five with the Carolina Panthers. Now, Carolina Panthers, we just talked about in the previous, where they had the third easiest passing schedule. They got the fifth easiest rushing schedule. So Chuba Hubbard, wheels up. Let's go. The guys, it's not going to be a sexy pick for you. It's not going to be something that you're going to want to do or that you might not even feel good about doing by taking Chuba Hubbard when you see all the talent that's going around him. But when you couple it with a fifth easiest strength of schedule against the rush, kind of makes it a little easier to swallow. Now, at number four, we know these guys from the number one passing schedule, easiest passing schedule we talked about just a few minutes ago. That's the San Francisco 49ers. So if you want to handcuff CMC, you really believe that he's healthy, then go ahead and draft him late first, early second, where he's going in a lot of mock drafts because a lot of people are scared off of him. But you don't have to worry because as long as he's healthy, this guy could bring you a championship. When they've got the easiest strength of schedule, the easiest passing schedule, and the fourth easiest rushing schedule, well, heck, CMC does it all. He rushes, he catches. It doesn't matter. This guy will bring you points as long as he's on the field. Now, what if he gets hurt? Well, then you got our former boy, B-Rob, to back him up. Now, he's adequate, he's capable, he's a little dull. Kind of like vanilla pudding. It's going to taste good, it's going to fill you up, it's going to do the job. Hey, it might not be a fruit tart, but it's still dessert, right? So, number three, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the third easiest rushing schedule. So, for all those lovers of Bucky Irving from last year, you got your wish. Here you go. So, even though they lost their left tackle, which I'm not too concerned about that for the rushing, because I do believe in Bucky Irving and I do believe that he will pay off where he's going. Now, I do think that he's kind of being drafted at a ceiling right now, and the tone has come down a little bit because I'm seeing him instead of going middle of the second, I'm seeing him going the back of the second, maybe beginning of the third, depending upon your scoring setting. So, something to keep an eye on. Now, number two easiest rushing schedule is none other than Louisiana's own New Orleans Saints. So we're talking about Alvin Kamara with a bad quarterback. The only one that the offense is probably going to run through because Chris Olave is one concussion away from retirement. Raheed Shaheed, downfield threat, but can anybody really get him the ball? And the best friend to a quarterback that's inexperienced is a running back that can catch those little checkdowns. And I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of checkdowns this year. So, again, Alvin Kamara, he was dubbed the Downton Abbey equivalent of running backs last year by the Ballers. As a Downton Abbey fan, I'm perfectly fine with that. Now, I don't have any problem taking Alvin Kamara where he's going because I do believe that he can return running back one upside when you couple everything that's going on, because the only thing you got to worry about, will they shut him down later in the season when you really need him in the playoffs? because they're out of it and they're basically going to be playing for the top pick in the draft. Now, number one, you really don't have to worry about them shutting this guy down because Bijan Robinson just happened to have drawn the best, easiest rushing schedule in the NFL this year. So, for all of those who are thinking about should I take in the top four Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, who's dealing with injury, you know you're not getting Jamar Chase unless you got the 101, so just back off of that. I'm talking about guys who have the 2 through 5 pick. Look, if I'm drafting 102, Bijan is my pick, hands down. Now, the bottom 5 rushing defense at number 5, if you take this guy this early, you're going to be betting solely on talent and coaching because the coaching staff has a very high rate of play. They got a quick pace and they're going to want to run the ball. I'm talking about Ashton Genty and the Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders have the 5th hardest rushing schedule. However, and they also have the 4th hardest passing schedule. So it's going to be a little rough in Vegas. Just saying. So next up, the 4th hardest rushing schedule. Again, I'm not really worried about this because King Henry can definitely deliver. Yes, the Baltimore Ravens have the 4th hardest rushing schedule in the league. Now, you think that's going to stop Lamar and Derrick Henry? I don't think so. So I'm cool with this one. You want to go ahead and draft these guys where they're going. That's a pure bet on talent, and you always bet on talent. Number 3, the Chargers. Mario Hampton, welcome to the NFL. You get the 3rd hardest strength of schedule against the rush. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys. We're talking about Caleb Johnson, Jalen Warren. Do you want anything to do with an Arthur Smith-led offense? You saw how bad he screwed up the Falcons last year. It was absolutely terrible to watch, and we just kept screaming at the screen, going, "Please put in Bijan. Please leave Tyler Algier on the bench. He doesn't need to be in there." This guy will mess up a picnic worse than a bunch of ants. Okay? He's going to be annoying. He's going to be aggravating, and they're not going to get rid of him. So the Pittsburgh Steelers backfield, I am so hands off, it's not even funny. Now, this one's going to be a little rough because the number 1 hardest schedule for the rushing game is going to be with Chase Brown and the Cincinnati Bengals. So even though Chase Brown is everyone's darling from last year, they didn't do anything to the backfield in the draft. They didn't sign anybody worth of note in free agency. Chase Brown is the man. And with a defense that is this bad, he's going to be on the field a lot. And they're going to need to score. So whether it's Chase Brown, whether it's T. Higgins, whether it's Jamar Chase, they're going to need all 3 of these guys to score and score a ton just to stay in games. So even though he's got the hardest rushing schedule, I mean, and if you look at it, it kind of makes sense because 3 of these 5 teams are all in the same division. We're talking about the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bengals. The only thing missing is the Browns. So, who's got the top 5 and bottom 5 defenses? And you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, I really don't pay attention to defense. In my league of record, we don't even have a defense. So why is this concerning? I'll tell you why. Because a team with a top flight defense won't need to throw the ball as much because they're probably not going to need to score because their top flight defense is going to shut down the opponent to keep the scoring low. However, on the flip side of that, if you have a really bad defense, then your offense is going to need to score more points. So you need to think about this when you're drafting. And with the busiest weekend of drafting coming up, I hope this helps you with your draft. So at number 5, with the top, we'll go to the top 5 defenses first. So these are the best defenses in the league. Number 5, Minnesota Vikings. What does that mean? It means hello, Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. Both of these guys could be something in fantasy a little later for my taste. I don't want to take Aaron Jones. I would much rather target Jordan Mason because I don't expect Jones to make it through a full season. And once Mason gets in, I seriously doubt that he's going to be able to lose his job to a returning Aaron Jones. And I get that you really don't let guys lose their job because of injury. But hey, if you're not efficient, which Aaron Jones had, if I'm not mistaken, the most carries he's ever had last year, and he's getting older. And I don't think they're going to want to run that back again because they wouldn't have gone out, not only gotten Jordan Mason, but paid him as well. So, anybody who had CMC last year or was smart enough to take Jordan Mason, which he went undrafted in my league, and I wound up picking him up before week 1. So, oh, and thank you, Ballers, for that, because if I'm not mistaken, that was on your recommendation. So, number 4, the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this is why I say Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are perfectly fine for having a really tough rushing schedule because their defense is going to keep them in games and it's going to keep them at a low score because once these guys get ahead, all they're going to do is run the ball. So the Ravens are going to keep running and it'll be fine. Now, the next one up, number 3, best defense in the league, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is why so many people are high on Jaylen Warren and on Caleb Johnson. Now, Caleb Johnson, not a whole lot of good report coming out of camp with him in passing protection. So that would probably lead Jaylen Warren, who, by the way, has never had over 200 carries in a season. And if I'm not mistaken, that was what Najee had the last year he was there, but he averaged 319 during his career with Pittsburgh. So it's probably going to be a committee. So even though they have a really good defense, I still don't want anything to do with this backfield in Pittsburgh. Next up, the returning champs, the Philadelphia Eagles at number 2. Now, their defense is going to keep them in a whole lot of games, which means Saquon Barkley is going to be getting the rock and getting it often because that's all they're going to do is salt away games. Even though they've got a really tough schedule coming up, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Now, the number 1 defense in the league, Denver. So, what does that mean for Bo Nix, Courtland Sutton, and company? That means that might not be throwing the ball as much, which means that RJ Harvey could be a very good late round RB if you want to throw him in there and see what's going on with that. I personally got him in a rookie draft. I've actually got him in the 3rd round, which it was before all the hype came out about him. So I would definitely be taking RJ Harvey a little later and seeing how Denver is going to salt away games with Sean Payton and Bo Nix up in Denver. Now, the bottom 5 defenses this year. We got the Jags. So, hello, Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, um, Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne, all of the offense. I'm cool. If you want to light them up, I'm more confident in Brian Thomas Jr. and Tank Bigsby and Travis Hunter. So basically, I'm a wait and see on Trevor Lawrence. I really think that Liam Cohen can get him running and get him on track. What I don't believe is I don't believe in Travis Etienne. So now, number 4, the Saints are all over the place. And it's not so much the Saints are going to come marching in as they're going to get marched all over. So with them having the 4th worst defense, and that would, if y'all have watched any of the preseason, you know that the Saints defense is absolutely horrible. Whether it's the first string, the third string, the middle string, it doesn't matter. These guys are playing for the number 1 draft in next year, or number 1 pick in next year's draft. Just saying. So, number 3, and this is why I said what I said about the Raiders, because the Raiders have the 3rd worst defense in the league. So the fact that they have a rough schedule in passing and rushing, I'm cool with, because they're going to have to find points somewhere to keep in games, because it's definitely not going to be by their defense. Number 2, the Tennessee Titans. This is why I love Tony Pollard as a late round running back for your fantasy team. Look, I hated to talk positive about him when he was a Cowboy, but I still did it. I actually picked him last year in Tennessee. Love the pick. Love the pick even more this year with Cam Ward, because I definitely think that him and Cam Ward can be something special, along with Calvin Ridley. So with them having the 2nd worst defense, said it before, I'll say it again, the best friend to an inexperienced quarterback is a running back that can catch. That's Tony Pollard, guys. Next up, the last and definitely least is the Carolina Panthers. Yes, they finished last year in defense. They start bad this year. So, Bryce Young, Teron McMillan, fire them up. I'm good to go. You want an easy stack to make as well? Talked about Brock Purdy and George Kittle being probably the easiest stack you could make. This one, probably even easier, because nobody's going to be taking Bryce Young, and you might have to reach a little bit for McMillan, but it's definitely doable. So let's talk hardest and easiest strength of schedule overall. Okay. And this will be the end of it. Hardest strength of schedule. Number 5, the Vikings. Number 4, the Eagles. Number 3, the Lions. Number 2, here comes the Browns. With the hardest strength of schedule, guys, it's Joe Flacco and company. Maybe Shedeur Sanders, maybe Gabriel, maybe Kenny Pickett. I don't even know if they're going to keep 6 quarterbacks now on the roster for Cleveland, unless they cut somebody that I haven't been made aware of. But yeah, they're carrying 6 quarterbacks. It's crazy. So, Gabriel, rookie, they just drafted after Sanders. Shedeur Sanders. Joe Flacco, they brought him out of retirement again. Then Kenny Pickett, they picked up from Pittsburgh. And on the schedule, on the roster still, Deshaun Watson. And if I'm not mistaken, they signed somebody else. Why, I don't know. But they did. The number 1 hardest schedule in the league, the New York Football Giants. Guys, this is what scares me about my league neighbors. I get they got the hardest schedule. I get that he's talented. But when you got so many questions at quarterback, him dealing with injury, a, a coaching staff that may or may not and probably won't be there next year. This is not a good recipe. So, like I said, I would personally take someone other than Malik Neighbors if it's me on the clock at that point where he's going. He's going middle, back half of the first round, which is totally legitimate, but there's other talent around him that I would definitely take this in a much better situation. BTJ is going around that round. Nico Collins is going around there. Drake London is going like first part of the second. Ashton Genty is going around that. CMC is going around that. I'll take the risk on CMC because I can back him up with Brian Robinson Jr. So there's a lot of options that you got. You don't have to put yourself through the Malik Neighbors experience with Russ Wilson, Famous Jameis, Jackson Dart, um, head coach OC that might not even be there. So now, easiest schedule. Number 5, the Buffalo Bills. How did this happen? The Buffalo Bills get the 5th easiest schedule? Come on. Like Josh Allen needs any more help being another number 1 quarterback in fantasy. This is why he's going number 1 quarterback off the board. Atlanta, not only the 4th easiest strength of schedule, but also the easiest rushing uh, schedule for the this year. Guys, this is why I say that Bijan Robinson is my number 2 off the board behind Jamar Chase. Number 3, easiest strength of schedule, our very own New Orleans Saints, who also have the 2nd easiest rushing and the 2nd easiest passing. But they've got a really bad defense. So, as far as the Saints go, the only player that I'd be comfortable taking would be Kamara. I just don't think there's enough chemistry with Olave right now and Spencer Rattler, who's probably going to wind up being the starter, to actually rely on that. Number 2, the New England Patriots. Did Belichick come back to New England? Nobody told me about it because this is something that they would do for him. Give him the 2nd easiest schedule in the league with a quarterback that has rushing upside, that's a good passer. When you just get a veteran wide receiver and Stephon Diggs in the building, not to mention pretty decent draft class and a rookie running back that I actually like. I think a lot of people are going to pay attention to New England. Drake May, late round quarterback, late round goal written all over this guy. And of course, I said it before, there's no surprise here. The San Francisco 49ers with the easiest strength of schedule overall, easiest passing schedule, and 4th easiest rushing schedule for this year. So, if you're trying to make a stack, definitely Brock Purdy, George Kittle, or Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, because Debo's not there anymore. God only knows when Brandon Ayuk is coming back. And is Juwan Jennings ever going to be healthy? Don't know. Almost feel like one of those old soap operas. Tune in next week to find out. So, guys, that's the top 5 easiest and hardest strength of schedule, defense, passing schedule, and rushing schedule for the NFL. Remember this when you're going into your draft. And don't forget, tend that garden. Pull those weeds out. Do those deeds that show your faith. And in turn, build your faith through those. So, guys, as I've said before, if you're a new listener, you're a new viewer, please, down below, hit subscribe, like, share. Make sure you smash the notification button so you know when I go live on September 2nd for our live draft. And as always, from Faith in Football, I want you to remember that football is good, but God is greater. You guys have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time on Faith in Football.